Hello, everybody. Here we are at the second day of the Powerhouse Smart Luxury Conference, and we're so thrilled to have two incredible, fresh, young marketing wizards who actually are luxury industry professionals. We've got Brad Leavitt from Arizona, and he's going to introduce himself. I'm thrilled to have him. And we have Claire Staszak, who her interior design firm is here in the Chicagoland area, but she does work everywhere. The two of them happen to work together, and that is how we decided to bring them both sharing the latest in marketing and branding. So, the title of their session is A Business to a Brand in 2021. But really, when we walk away from hearing what they have to say today, we're going to have all the latest hot tips and tools to marketing ourselves. So, thank you again, Brad and Claire. Take it away.
Yeah, well, thank you for that introduction, Wendy. So I'm Brad Leavitt. I'm president and founder of Aft Construction, and most of you may know us as Aft Construction throughout social media, which we'll be speaking about a lot today on all the different platforms that we are using that we feel are beneficial. These are platforms that have built our brand, and it's also enabled us to collaborate with amazing professionals and talent across the country, including Claire, who's here with me today as we speak about the power of branding and how you can utilize these channels for your company.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be with you. Hey, Brad. Hi, Wendy. Thanks for having me. My name is Claire Staszak. I'm the principal and owner of Centered by Design here in Chicago. We are a high-end residential firm, do a little bit of commercial and retail work as well. And I have used branding and social media in a past career in marketing and now for my 5 years in business, and have found it really quickly launched me from a very new designer in Chicago to someone who is, establishing a great foothold and reputation in the industry. So I'm excited to share with you all that, Brad and I kind of have put together. So we're just going to launch right in, and, please bear with my screen sharing and different things as we kind of try to navigate this virtual conference. Last year was lovely and so much fun in person. And so I hope to see you all again next year, but this is so great that Wendy was still able to gather us all to learn from each other. So what I first want to start talking about, and Brad, please, chime in if anything kind of comes to mind, but we're going to start off with talking about a mission statement and a vision for your business. I'm going to try screen sharing here right off the bat, so just give me a second. Okay, so hopefully you can see this document. And this is something that I've worked with my own business coach on, and creating a mission and a vision for your business not only keeps you and your team motivated, but I feel like it really helps you stay on track. And you might think, what does this have to do with branding? But your mission and your vision are really, the crux of who your company is. And so I think a lot of people, they have a tagline or they have sort of something that they say all the time, but it doesn't really enough. It's not your full mission statement. It's not your full vision. So here are a couple tips to get started, and then I'm going to share with you guys what mine is. And I think it's really helpful to see somebody else's. So try incorporating the following into your mission statement: what you do, how you do it, who you do it for, and how it helps them. So really client
And
market focus.
yeah, and I love that you share that, Claire, because what's interesting, when you think about that as a company, and we'll get into a little bit later the conversation on some of the platforms, but I look at LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a very unique platform. And what's funny is there's not a lot of people that do a good job, in my opinion, of marketing their company. As you're mentioning, Claire, you have, what do you do? How do you do it? Who do you do it for? And if you can capture what that is for your business, as you've done, Claire, and then on LinkedIn in this audience, this professional audience, and I'll give one quick example. It's funny because I had a neighbor of mine, a husband and wife, that they knew what I did. I said, I'm in construction. I've done construction my whole life. And I don't think they ever understood that, but they both followed me on LinkedIn. And as they saw that consistent content, they saw what I did. They saw how we do it. They would see our systems and our process and the communication and really these core values that I know you'll get into. They had an epiphany. I remember them coming to speak with my wife and I and said, hey, Brad, we understand what you do now. We're going to hire you next time we build a house. And that messaging became more clear to me that I need to be a little more targeted as far as who I am, what I'm doing, and then showing that process, showing that journey. And then, that's what gravitates them to our brand.
Yeah, and I think too, a lot of times we write mission statements and it's sort of more like all about us and our brand. And I've been taught over the years, you really want to try to write, in a really service-oriented way. And I think that's a huge takeaway. If you take one thing away from today, it's that being successful on social media is about service. How are you serving your audience and giving them content that enriches their life? You're not just showing off sort of what you can do. And so I think, incorporating that into your mission statement, we're a really service-driven industry. And, sometimes I think we don't highlight that as much as we could. So a few questions to help you start thinking about your mission statement, start thinking about back to the beginning. Why did you get into this? What do you want to be known for? What are you most excited about in your business? There's that question, who are you looking to serve? How will you benefit your customers? What are some of those core values or beliefs for your work? Maybe think about your niche, what might be missing from your space in the design build industry and how can you capitalize on that? And then how will you measure your success? So I'm just going to read mine because I think it's really helpful. The other thing too is, I worked on a 2-year vision. I'm in a really busy part of my life, having children, and things are moving quickly and always changing. And so I'm not trying to plan 10 years out right now. I'm trying to plan 2, 3, maybe 5 years. So don't get stuck on this has to define my business forever and ever. Just define it, for right now. Brad, you look like you might want to chime
No,
in.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's super important. And as you mentioned, I mean, those 2, 5, 10-year plans are important. And I know you're going to get into your taglines. One, for us, we're a finer touch construction, right? And so we say a touch above the competition. That's one thing, that's one of our taglines. But how do we showcase that? How do we communicate that? And that has to do with, different video content and our Instagram stories. These are ways that we can drive, the personnel that's behind the brand of AFT and show the people behind it and the extra steps that we're doing or that my team's doing, to separate us from other contractors, not only locally, but nationally. And one of my favorites that I was actually from one of our clients and, they did a video for us. We're looking at having some marketing. And in the video, they said, AFT saves marriages one house at a time. Right. And so that's one of those that I've used constantly. I think it's a great icebreaker with our clients when I meet with a client for the first time to let them know that, our goal is to save marriages one house at a time because it's a stressful experience building. And so these things, it's as you're mentioning, Claire, what are the pain points, to your industry? What are the pain points to your customer? And once you understand those pain points, and that's how you can be known for. That's how you can look to serve and bring value to your clients. And then that will help expand your messaging that you can now be consistent about on each platform.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I mean, just as a side note, one of my big things in business is if you can't fix it, feature it. So, if you can't, I can't make the home building process, go super easy every time. There's always going to be issues. We always have mistakes. There's always things that are late. You have to come up with sort of what's your angle on how do you fix those things and make them less stressful for your client. And I think that's, great, that tagline that you were using. So one of our taglines is timeless interiors with soul. And so, I mean, yeah, you can say that, but what social media does for your brand is that it shows people that. And so what I've found as I've really targeted and curated my social media over the last 5 years, I am now getting clients who come to me for a very specific look and who refer to designers who I truly admire in the industry and would, hire in a second to do my own home. And so if you're struggling with kind of who your ideal client is, really defining what you do and how you do it is going to bring those people to you. And I think a little bit further than that, just when I read through this vision statement, and some of our kind of mission points, this, you think about even bigger than your client too. What do you want for your own business? What's going to keep you motivated? What's going to keep your employees motivated? I think we all do this day after day. Some days are a grind and it doesn't feel as fun and exciting. And I truly go back to my vision statement, and that centers me. That makes me, when I have one of those bad days, really feel like, okay, this is why I am in it. And so I think it can be a tool, not only for personal branding, but for personal motivation. So just quick, here's mine. We've developed our Centered by Design brand, so it's easily recognized as a high-end boutique design firm with a unique style, timeless, creative, colorful, European aesthetic. We've continued to grow our company sustainably, maintain flexibility and enjoyment while expanding our team with people we love and build a greater capacity and expertise. We have honed in on making our unique contribution collectively and individually as we continue to collaborate well. When we walk through our office doors, our environment is calm, work is lighthearted, creative, productive, and challenging. Our design firm is set up to be a family-friendly culture where everyone is encouraged to thrive at work and within our families. And so, that's my company vision. And then that kind of translates into this mission of to create timeless interiors with soul, to ease stress of the design build project for our clients, to continue to push the boundaries of creativity and design, to specifically work to restore older homes and vintage properties, and to be a recognized and respected voice in our industry.
Now it's interesting because you used the word soul, right? And then you talked about your missions that are clear. And I think about it just from a designer perspective. I'm not a designer, but I work with designers on every project. And one of the things that I hear a lot, feedback from clients when they come to me and say, "Hey, Brad, we don't know if we're going to get a designer." And I tell them, "Well, you're going to hire a designer, or we're not the contractor for you," right? Well, the reality is a lot of them have pain points. As we mentioned, they say, "Well, it's expensive. I don't want to hire a designer because I'm going to spend a lot of money," or they're going to make the project more expensive because they're going to pick all these nice things, but use the term soul. And the pain point is, well, they think it's a pricing issue where, how do we change that branding? How do we change that marketing strategy where not only me as a contractor, but the designer can say, "Okay, client, well, if you bring a designer in, well, now you have this amazing room, this amazing great room, amazing kitchen, amazing bedroom. It's a retreat, right? So that soul, you're more inspired, you're more refreshed when you're at work all day and you're building your career and you have the stresses of life that all of us have. Well, you can come home and there's soul in your home. You feel at peace when you sit down and things are in their place. They're well designed. They look good. They inspire you. The resale value is there. This home's been designed beautifully and now it can be resold for a higher value, and then I look at it this way from the building side. I tell the clients, well, if I have Claire on board, well, I can build more efficiently. Instead of a 16-month build, it's probably going to be 14 months. And I'm not going to pester you. You're going to like me by the end of the project because, I don't have to, harass you every day for selections. These are already done. And now I can actually price these more competitively because I have clear and defined specs. I can order material, which changes lead times. It holds pricing, which has fluctuated with COVID. And now with COVID, people spending more time at home, how much more important is it to invest in your surroundings, in your house, where you live? And this is where, that messaging, that soul is perfect, Claire. And then how do you showcase that? As you and I have spoken about many times, these are ways where, as you start broadcasting that message that we just discussed on these platforms, the clients will see that and gravitate towards that.
Totally. And I mean, just a whole nother branding point in general is, get a really tight relationship with contractors, subcontractors, designers, vice versa. I feel like I consistently sell projects better, larger, higher price points when I bring in a super awesome, reliable team. And so, just thinking a little more holistically about kind of what your brand does. So yeah, we're a design firm, but we also have the best contractor in town to kind of bring to your project. So Brad, I'm going to share your slides and you're going to talk a little bit about branding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as she gets in here, so Claire's going to pull up this slide. So one thing that I live by is silent salesman. And I'm not sure if any of you have heard that term. It's something that I live by. So silent salesman, the definition is someone that sells your brand that's not on your payroll. And so you think about that right now as you're dressed, do you have Travis Matthews clothes on, which is a golf line? Do you have Nike shoes on? Do you have a Louis Vuitton handbag, right? We're selling these brands. Not only are we paying for these brands because of the way they look, the way they make us feel.
Sorry guys, Brad, I'm trying to stop sharing this one and share yours, and it keeps coming back to this guy. Not sure what I'm doing wrong.
It's okay. Just go on the share screen and to your desktop. And so when you think about silent salesmen, this is where people are selling your brand, and that's what you need. You need these loyal followers that throughout the country say, hey, I know the best designer, it's Claire. You need to talk to her. If you're in Chicago, go to Claire and she will do your project. If you're in Scottsdale or Arizona, we know this builder AFT, give them a call, and you can build this loyal following. And so most brands, when you start looking at branding, they use a number, 1,000 loyal followers creates a brand. And so when you think of it as a musician, you need 1,000 loyal followers. They're going to buy all your CDs. They're going to go show up at your concert. They're going to come to all your events. And you need that. You need that core to build your brand. It's very similar. I have some images here. Apple, some people love Apple, and there's a reason why they love Apple. And they're going to go and they're going to tell their friends about Apple. And we're going to get into Traeger here in a minute. And so these are people that are advocates of your brand and selling your brand that aren't on your payroll. And that's really how you turn into a brand, is that now you can start picking and selecting the clients you want to work with. For me as a builder, it's very unique. I want a global presence, even though I only build in Arizona. Whereas it may be more advantageous for a designer or architect to have a global presence because they can work in many different locations. Whereas myself, I'm limited by the subcontractors and trade partners and suppliers. So we have our core people. Notwithstanding, I still want that global brand. The reason being is a lot of people move to Arizona. They have second homes. They relocate here. They like that sunny weather. And I want them to speak into their peers in New York or Chicago or California when they're looking at homes, and that we're a trusted source. And so micro influencers, and this is really important as you start thinking about your social media content. Micro influencers are people that have 10 to 50,000 followers. You don't have to have 500,000. You don't have to have 2 million. So if you're in that 10 to 50,000, influencers and companies and brands really look to partner with you. Because 61% of your followers, which studies have been done, show that they're the most relatable. They're people that they can relate with, that they feel they can reach, they can message, they can DM, and these people respond back. So the product is, that they produce is more relatable. And typically with these platforms, myself, I think we have like 75,000 on Instagram, but we're in there where we're creating our own content. We're engaging with the comments. We're responding to direct messages. So companies look to align themselves with that brand. And this goes back to the collaboration that Claire was mentioning. As you start building your brand and collaborating with architects, designers, builders around the country and other national brands, this helps elevate your company to be more competitive in the marketplace, to have pain points solved. As my clients, maybe have budget restrictions, well, I can reach out, to some national brands and collaborate with them on a marketing opportunity for a unique project that they may donate product, which now helps our client, helps us. So that's really important. And the content that we typically produce, or I would say micro influencers, most of the audience feels it's more authentic and trustworthy. So I bring up Traeger, as we start thinking about brand and the soul of the home, as Claire mentioned, and we're going to get into some 5 keys of branding. But the reason I bring up Traeger is Jeremy has become a friend of mine. He's the CEO of Traeger, and Traeger, in his marketing background, Jeremy had worked through different brands, and it always came down to, well, in 2018, Traeger was kind of going through this moment where there were a lot of competitors. There were a lot of smokers out there. It's a commodity. And in Jeremy 1.0, as he mentioned, he would go back and he'd say, we need to cut costs. We need to, figure out our product features. We need to figure out manufacturing and distribution and how we're going to cut these costs so we can be profitable and make it through. And then he said, Jeremy 2.0, is different, which is what we're talking about today. And that's branding. He said, you know what? We're going to just double down on marketing. We're going to double down on branding. And what he found was that I need to create this emotional journey. And I want to speak about this in the 5 keys of branding. As you create this emotional journey for people, you start having these customer evangelists, is the term he used. And, this is really important because when you think about someone who's representing your brand and evangelist, these are people now that go out and say, I have a Traeger, right? I love Traeger. I use Traeger. You need to buy one. And these are the silent salesmen that I mentioned. You need people selling that brand, and it builds that community. And then they started recipes where people can share recipes on their board, and then Traeger's sharing everyone's recipes and reposting stories. And so you create this community of people that believe that it's not just a smoker or a barbecue. This is a community. It's a family. It's a brand. And that's super important. And so as you go into the next slide here, this is personal branding. I was at a conference in New York, and it was a LinkedIn global conference, and they had one of the panelists had mentioned that personal branding is permanent job security. There's a lot of value to building your personal brand and your company brand. And how do you work the both together? Because if you have personal branding, that's permanent job security that can now float and help carry your company brand. So it's really important that messaging on who's going to lead the messaging of the company, who's going to be the face of the company, and then how you market that to others. So now the herd mentality, and this is one of my other favorite, parts of marketing, is that you think people want to do what others are doing. If everyone has their Traeger and they're having a great time at the Super Bowl and they're showing their steaks they're grilling, people want to gravitate. They want to do that. They want to join, and it's very similar. I have clients here that I work with that have a global presence, and you see the herd mentality. And this is a real thing. And if you can create a brand that, hey, you know what? I have a home designed by Claire. And now that becomes the staple. And other people in their network want their home designed by Claire, or their home built by Aft Construction. They want an Aft house. Then that's where the herd mentality can really help take your company to the next level. So let's talk about how you get there. There's 5 keys to content. So as we go to key number 1, this is really important. And this goes back to the Traeger example. Focus on storytelling. So you have to create a story. What's the story behind? Don't focus on the product features. So for us, at AFT, how do we show, this is a family company, our employees, how do we show them and their background, their education, their passion for construction, that they love what they do, that they're happy, that they're smiling, that they communicate? That is the goal, because I don't want to focus on product features that we're doing. I want to focus on the emotional side behind it, so that people, when they look at AFT, they know my team, they know my staff, and they know their personal life, and they know how passionate they are about building. And what that does, that creates this, it captures the attention of our audience. We want to make it emotional. Number 2, as we go to number 2, bring value. Don't be something that you're not. A lot of us try to maybe portray something we aren't. And it's so important to be yourself on social media. Your brand needs to represent who you are and represent your value. And not only that, bring value. A lot of times people ask me, hey, Brad, well, you're putting out content, on social media, and you're giving out, whether they be trade secrets or your systems, how you do things. And the way I look at it is that, I just want to bring value to our audience and to our people. And I have a lot of clients that follow us on social media. So as they walk through and they learn our process of scheduling and our pain points that we deal with as contractors, that's the value. Now they understand what I deal with on a daily basis. They understand our systems and our protocol. And so what that ends up happening is now there's a better understanding. And so I don't worry about publishing that info, because now it creates more uniformity and communication between us. And then number 3, this part's super important. So focus on the customer journey. How do you create the customer journey? So there's here in town, he's one of my clients. His name's Dr. Brian Harris. If any of you have heard of him, he's one of the top cosmetic dentists in the country. And Brian works with clients all over, influencers, bloggers, and people travel from all over the country and world now really to work with Brian. And what he's done is he's shown this customer journey. He shows people that are at a wedding or they're at a birthday party, and they're very shy. They don't want to smile. They're self-conscious about how they look and their teeth, whatever it may be. And then he shows that customer journey. He shows the emotion behind it as they buy their plane ticket and they're flying to see Dr. Brian Harris. And then they're in their lobby and they're posting, his sign that says building confidence that's up in the lobby. And then they show that experience as they've gone through. And then fast forward, here they are now 2-3 months later at a wedding or at a large function or maybe public speaking. And now they have complete confidence. And so what he does is he shows this attraction. People see I want that. I want that herd mentality. I want to go to Dr. Brian Harris. I see how it changes person's life. I'm emotionally connected. There's the customer journey. That's really important. It doesn't matter if you're an architect, designer, builder. How do you create that engagement for people to now want to go on that journey, to want to build a house with AFT, to want to have a design by Claire? Number 4 is, again, and this is a good example. I mean, before we get to number 4, Dr. Brian Harris is here on the right, Hair by Chrissy, and Carrie Kirk Photos. So these are 3 examples of social media. And one thing you'll see, they're clean profiles, they're organized. So Dr. Brian, he has permanent stories in there. We have Hair by Chrissy. Chrissy does hair extensions, and she had same thing. She is here local in Phoenix. She had a lot of people come in and talk about how their life changed, getting hair extensions and more full hair. And then that exploded, and she started doing celebrities. And now she has an office in California, in Southern California, and she's completely expanded. And the same as Carrie Kirk. And so how do you brand your company, whether you're in photography, hair, dental, building, it doesn't matter, but how do you create that herd mentality? So number 4, understand to be customer centric. You want to make sure that your company's branding your company and that it's very customer centric, how you're doing that customer service, because 67% of all your potential customers will contact you through social media. I spelled it wrong there, but they'll contact through social media. And what you see is, it's funny. I have projects now where I have clients that'll come to me and say, hey, Brad, we want to build a custom home. Perfect. We need to get an architect. We need to get a designer. So I understand their budget and their aesthetic and their taste. And every time they ask me, and especially in this last 12 months, Brad, what's their Instagram handle? I want to look them up. And some of my designers have tremendous, Instagrams. They've spent a lot of time. They understand those platforms. And some have not taken the time. Understand that a majority of people, especially now, it doesn't matter if they're young or older, everyone has a smartphone, they're on social media, and they're going to contact your brand through social media. And it has been proven that companies that are active on social media grow 10% annually over their competitors. So make sure, if you're not on social media, if there's anything you take from Claire and I today, that you are active on those platforms. And then number 5, as we come in, is build outside your network. So it's really important for me that I'm understanding and networking with builders, right? I mean, that's really important, because that's going to help me be a better builder. It's going to help me learn pricing and strategies and, different things that I'm dealing with as a builder. But even more importantly, I need to build outside my network, not just with other architects and designers, but go to other conferences, to tech conferences, and meet other industry leaders, become a thought leader, make connections offline. When I meet someone at a conference and take their card, connect with them on LinkedIn. Find ways that you can connect and find these silent salesmen and grow your network outside of your immediate community. My goal would be that every realtor in Arizona and every doctor in Arizona, every lawyer in Arizona knows who AFT is. These are people that are not in my network, but still associate with a lot of people that may be my clientele.
And Brad, I just want to add something here too for designers, because I think, it's just not a lot of people's nature to ask for a referral. And a lot of the advice that I've sort of gotten over the years is, you always think of the houses that you design sort of as your calling card. People are going to walk in, they're going to love it, they're going to say, who did this? But there's definitely something to be said for asking current clients, hey, I would love your referral, or, taking a client out to lunch, just kind of talking about building your network in general. Because I think sometimes we get distracted and we think like, oh, I'm marketing all the time. I know I post on social media every day. And yeah, we are getting a majority of our leads through social media, but that direct client referral is always going to be stronger. And so just not being shy about sort of growing your brand through direct asks. That's something I sort of had to overcome a little bit. And I feel like I could probably still do a better job, but you do find those clients who are your advocates sort of no matter what, because they're just kind of that type of person. Like I have this one client who I swear, she must tell me, everyone she knows about me. And it's like, so you also got to, find those clients who also are super comfortable kind of doing that.
You need that silent salesman, that client that's going to sell your brand, right? And it's funny you say that, when you speak about reviews, not only is, as you start thinking about the messaging, we're going to get into the platforms, but before we do that, when you think about content and SEO, right? Search engine optimization, where how do people find Claire? How do they find Brad? Well, through Google. That's going to be one of our huge, platforms that people are searching. And some advice I give to every business, if you're not on there now, is Google has an app called My Business Google. Everyone needs to download My Business Google. Then you go to Google Maps and you register your business. And so when you register your business on Google, they'll have you send some articles of incorporation or utility bills to prove that you own that business. You send that to Google. 2 weeks later, they'll send you a postcard with the code, and now you can claim your business. And the value is now you can start having reviews. And so ask your clients not only for recommendations and referrals, as Claire mentioned, but ask them when the project's done to give you a review. Put it on Google. That helps your SEO. And as most of you are posting on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, take the time and use that same post and put it on My Business Google. It's an app. You can post very much the same way. And the value is you're going to draw now content and SEO people to your website through the Google app.
Yeah, reviews for sure. Those are, always good and kind of always a pain to get, but I always try to send out that email. We have a survey, like a Google survey that we try to send to clients to make it really easy for them to kind of rate us, review us, and I give them a little incentive. I say, like, I'll send you my favorite design book, that I think you'll personally love, and just, a great way to try to get those reviews right at the end when they're really happy and just got that final reveal. So you guys, we're going to move a little bit over to talk specifically about the different social media platforms now. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that, we can cover here. I think obviously at this point, everybody knows how important it is to have a website. It's really important these days to have your website optimized for phone use, which I think is a big miss. A lot of companies haven't really updated. Your website needs to be easy to read on a phone. I have a blog, and a lot of designers, have started blogs because it's a great way to drive SEO. It's a great way to up your Pinterest traffic and drive traffic back to your website. I'm just going to kind of list these different topics that we're going to try to quickly sort of go through. Newsletter, newsletter is like the number one way that people actually click and engage and purchase with your brand. So it's always important to have that to really keep that very close connection to your loyal followers. I'm going to talk a little more specifically about Instagram, try to touch on video, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. So just to start off, I have a PDF that's for sale on my website that's called Authentically You. So I developed this because I would often get asked to speak on, how I sort of developed my brand or my loyal followers on social media. And so this is great for anybody in really any field, especially a creative field. And I just kind of give you a little bit of a workbook on sort of how to start your Instagram account and following. So if you're really new to this, I'm just going to kind of quickly go through some of this. So I always like to talk about, when we talked about our mission and our vision, even just dialing it in a little bit more for social media, what are the top 5 things that make your brand or your design work or your build work unique? You really need to know what those things are, create a great little byline for your Instagram. People are just going to come read that real quick, and that's going to determine if they follow you or not. And I've changed mine several times over the years. So, right now this PDF's a year outdated. And so I've got a different thing up there now because, I'm kind of always changing with what I think makes the most sense for my brand. Then, you need to know some of the fundamentals of how the app works. A great resource that I often refer people to is a company called Tailwind. So they have a blog and tons of videos. You can access any of it for free, about, I think they even have a podcast, really detailed sort of technical information on how to use these apps to the best of your ability. You can also pay for a Tailwind subscription, and they have apps that help you pre-plan your social media. So I use them specifically to pre-plan both my Pinterest account and my Instagram account. And that's Tailwind, just like it sounds, all one word. So make sure that you create a business account with your Instagram. So they're personal and business. And if you make sure you register as a business account, you first need a Facebook business page to do that, because Instagram's owned by Facebook. And so you have to be registered as a business on Facebook. Then you can become a business page on Instagram, and you'll get some additional analytics that you can't see otherwise. So, those are helpful. A lot of times if brands want to work with you, they will ask you for your analytics. So it's helpful to kind of know where those things are. The other big thing, right, about using social media is creating content. So I'm sure, Brad, you can chime in here, because, this is a job in itself, and creating content. I mean, we're lucky in our field because there's a lot of pretty things that I get to look at on a daily basis and take, pictures of, but people are picky and they like, certain kinds of imagery, and social media has maybe gotten a little more casual over the past year, with kind of people wanting a little more authenticity, a little more reality, but still really important to think of your account like as a magazine. That's how I think of mine. I want people to come and really be wowed by all the images they see. Brad, do you want to chime in about sort of content for you?
I do. And I'm glad you teed that up, because content is super important. And the reality is, what I've learned, especially from following many accounts and networking with many professionals on social media, is the reality is it doesn't matter the content. It matters that it's good content, that it's interesting. And Instagram's going to track, how long people are viewing your photo. So if they're just swiping through their homepage and they continue to swipe through yours because it's not interesting or doesn't catch their eye, eventually they're going to take them off from viewing your post entirely. Because no matter how many followers you have, probably only 4 or 5% of all of your followers see your posts anyways. That's why you can actually reuse and recycle some of your current content. For some people say, I don't have a ton of content, I'm a new company, or I haven't taken a lot of photography. You can recycle it or reuse it in different ways or views, because some of your users may not even see it anyways. But more importantly, there's some good examples. I've seen people that when they do the before and afters, well, the key to before and after is you want people swiping. You want that carousel where they're swiping between photos, because now people are engaging. They're looking at the photo, look at this picture, zoom in. And what you're trying to do is zoom in and look at this backsplash, look at this, this accent wall, because you want people to take a minute and look at the photo. Well, with the before and afters, it's funny because some people show the before as the front cover, and it's this ugly, house before they've demoed. And then as they swipe, it's the beautiful finished photo. And then some people, because they want their feed really clean, has the finished photo, and then you swipe for the before. Really doesn't matter. What matters is the content. Is the photography good? Is there a reason that people want to see this major transformation? There's another builder, and our building's Kyle Stump and Horse, a friend of mine in Illinois. He does post-barn construction, post-frame construction. He builds barns, in farmlands. But what he's done is all of his content, he's getting into the nitty-gritty, how to utilize his different tools and products to expedite his work and the craftsmanship behind it. And people just sit there and watch these videos. It's like my kids love slime videos. I mean, they could sit there and watch slime videos all day. So it's mesmerizing to them. So find a way, either drone or video or time lapses. And it doesn't matter if you're a designer, builder, architect, there's different methods, and look at that. It's really put out good content and put out good photography, and the followers will come.
Yeah. And here's just, you guys can hopefully see on the screen, this is a list of some of my favorite apps that I use to help me create content. So I think, there's often sessions on kind of how to use your iPhone photography to the best of your ability, but I would say really just investing in learning a couple apps. Specifically, I use this Touch, Retouch, and Afterlight almost religiously for every photo. So, Touch, Retouch, I can go in and almost, I can take away an ugly stop sign in a photo, or remove a light switch that I don't want in a backsplash, or take some cans out of the ceiling that I think aren't making the photo so pretty. And then Afterlight, I can brighten things. There's a lot of research that shows sort of, brighter, well-lit photos do better. So there's a lot of little tips and tricks that you can do without having professional photography that will help improve your photos. And then there was something else I wanted to just mention in terms of content creation, because, you know, nowadays video is so important. Instagram launched Reels because TikTok became a very popular app with younger people. Reels are like 15-second videos that you can film easily on Instagram. And they've become very popular with a lot of influencers. But regardless, I think it's just finding, like what Brad said, what works for your business. I don't have a lot of time to create video, but anytime I'm doing a renovation and I know it's going to be worth getting video content, I will hire somebody to come like get B-roll footage. A lot of my photographers can do video, and I'm starting to incorporate that more into social media. So just, you know, always kind of trying to think ahead of what's going on and what you can make interesting.
And video is key. Claire mentioned that, but before we get into worksheet 3 here, is when you start looking at video, that's why these apps have really taken over. I mean, TikTok, although the audience may not be, or the clientele may not be perfect for you and your business, but the reality is the TikTok users are spending a lot of time. And why? Because they get these 15, 30-second videos that are highly engaging and entertaining to them. But you can incorporate that in Reels, as Claire mentioned, on Facebook, LinkedIn. I have found that my videos on LinkedIn do tremendously well. And the reason being, you don't see a lot of video content. And so for me to show maybe a house at frame stage, or maybe, you know, I had an architect that was hand sketching the elevation. And so that little time lapse video, 15 seconds I put, you know, went viral on LinkedIn and went viral on Instagram. People don't see that. So you can still be creative even if you don't have a lot of time, which Claire and I don't, but video is key. So make sure if you're not doing video that you spend at least some of your time collaborating and creating video content.
Yeah. And then a couple other tips, just, I mean, it can't be said enough that just consistency is everything. So like your audience is only going to get to know you if you post once a day. I mean, I really don't think you should be posting any less than once a day. And I know that sounds like a lot, especially if you probably, you know, aren't posting regularly, but, you know, start with a smaller goal, maybe 3 times a week. But I would say any big content creators out there are posting at least once a day. It's also just great to try to build your network. You know, again, it does take time, but if you have an intern, a younger person on staff, somebody who enjoys social media, you know, you do really need to get in the app and meet people. It's really a networking tool. I don't know, Brad, how do you manage that? Do you have someone who's managing it, or are you managing it?
I am managing all of our social media, and it's very cumbersome with my company and everything else, but I found value there. You know, it's, you once you learn the platforms, you learn your messaging, as we spoke about earlier in this conversation. When you know what you want to produce and what you want to put out there for the public, that you can do that in a very targeted way. You know, I'll write my posts ahead of time, and then I'll post at certain targets of the day that I'm aiming for. And, you know, it's Instagram and all these platforms are changing their algorithms. The reality is, as Claire mentioned, you need to be consistent. 1 to 2 times a day if you can, at least once a day. Ideally, you get to that point. And you want to be on different platforms too. Don't just be in a corner, you know, just on one of them. Make sure you try to have an audience on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest and House. It seems cumbersome. As you start to learn more about those, it really helps in bringing that audience, because every platform has a different demographic.
Yeah, so let's move off of Instagram for a second, and I'm just going to hit on Pinterest for a minute. So Pinterest is, I mean, I'm interested because there's another talk actually about Pinterest at this whole conference, but I use Pinterest, and most designers do, super heavily to find inspiration and to create design boards for our clients. But Pinterest is also, I mean, it's a huge shopping tool for people. It's a #1 way people look for recipes, photos, content, DIY, how to build. And if you, my sort of process, right, we post a bunch of images on our blog, and then we basically post those back to Pinterest. And so anybody who is on Pinterest seeing those images and clicking on that image will be driven to our blog or our website. And this is great if you sell actual products. So a lot of designers, they have a store, or like I have a PDF store, and I was looking for, how can I get these PDFs out to more people? People will go on to Pinterest and, look for their favorite white paint colors, but somebody might pay for a PDF of my top 25 white paint colors because that's curated and proven to work. You're not just reading some random person, who may or may not have really gotten the right white paint color. And there's a lot of discussion about white paint colors in the design industry. So, try to think really creatively, how can you utilize these different tools for different parts of your business? I've been able to build a whole nother revenue stream selling PDFs online through Pinterest.
And it's key. You mentioned the cross collaboration. I mean, we mentioned that between industries, industry professionals, but between platforms is key, between platforms, because, as we post on Instagram, we'll pin that on Pinterest. So our Instagram post is pinned to our Pinterest page, which now our Pinterest audience draws to AFT. And then if they click on the photo, it takes them to our Instagram, which increases the followers there. So you can work back and forth between the platforms. And as you mentioned, Claire, every picture on your website should be pinned to Pinterest. So then everyone's keying back to your website.
And then one other thing I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit is sort of the role of influencer in branding and social media these days, because anybody can become an influencer, and there's some really awesome benefits of working with brands for your business. So my first tip is to just write down 5 brands that you would love to work with. Like, who are some of the dream brands in your industry that you want to collaborate with? And then if you are on social media and you already have a presence, I recommend this brand called Fohr, Fohr. You can register with them, and they kind of verify social statistics. So like any brand could go to them and check out like legitimately
credibility,
your numbers and kind of what's going on there. And what's even better is they have like, once you kind of link your account, you can click and they will basically give you a media kit that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to put together this whole big thing. It just pops out your numbers so that you could easily share that with any brand that you reach out to. And, building a media kit is sort of like a whole nother course, but that's really important. If you want to reach out to brands, you need to know your audience, your value, what you're asking for. And they're always going to sort of ask for a media kit. And that's basically kind of your numbers and some photos and, what you charge to work with them.
And as we close this session, because we wanted to open this up for questions that we can answer for any of you with some of the platforms we're using and how we utilize those and the benefit, the leads that have come. But as Claire mentioned, the media kit's key, because she mentioned early in the conversation, make sure you set up your account as a business profile. By doing that, then you have the analytics, you have the numbers of who's viewing your post, the demographic, the age, location, city, and these things are valuable to companies as they're looking to partner with you and possibly sponsor you or have you as an ambassador for them. And so that media kit's key, and the only way it'll happen is if you're a business account. So again, we're going to open up this conversation to any questions you may have for us.